To Snetterton for round 2 of the Race Department Mini Challenge. I'm Sam Carmichael, and commentating today with me, well, you might know him from Wednesday's Formula 3 event. It's Jim Nobbs.
Yes, thank you very much, Sam. Yeah, giving the professional league a go, so hopefully we'll have some excitement. We had a very good Formula 3 event on Wednesday this week, so hopefully we're going to see some sort of a similar excitement today in this 80-minute race on Snetterton.
Well, I can definitely be assured on the excitement, because I think the last race at Oulton Park was an absolute cracker. We had battles all down the field for a full 80 minutes. Me and Dan, who was commentating at the time, we didn't know where to look. It was a great race, and I think today will be another great race. Familiar faces up front, with Ross McGregor in pole position currently with a 2 minutes 13 lap. Only person in the 13s actually, with Sean Jacobs on a 2 minutes 14 in second place, same as Oulton Park. And a newcomer for the series at the moment is Jeffrey Fournier. Apologies if I've got the name wrong. He's in the default skin, and he's third with a 2 minute 14.2. So top 3 drivers in qualifying so far, all above the 2 minute 14s, and everyone else is in the 2 minute 15s. So there's quite a gap between the top 3 in the field. What do you make of that, Jim?
Yeah, it's, I don't know whether it's going to be driving technique for these corners or this circuit rather, or whether it's just the amount of practice these guys have put in. Clearly the top of the field significantly quicker, the top 3 than the rest. I note Jeffrey Fournier is a teammate of Ross McGregor, so the team or the team championship standings are likely to benefit significantly if the race pans out anything like qualifying is at the moment.
Definitely. I can see Ross McGregor being a very strong figure in this series, very similar to how Sake Lepanimi dominated the Mazda MX-5 Championship on Assetto Corsa earlier this year. Now, a bit of background information on Snetterton. It was redeveloped in 2011 to this new layout called Snetterton 300. Previously, I'd say it was the UK's Cathedral of Speed, very Monza-esque with its long straights and its chicane and very sweeping corners. But previous to that, of course, like many other British circuits, it was an army base in World War II, very similar to Silverstone, probably more notably, and even Oulton Park, which was also a staging base during the wartime. So a lot of history behind circuits in Britain, especially with Snetterton being redeveloped. I'm not too sure about this layout. Do you have any opinions on it, Jim?
Well, I've raced here. It's 300 layout, the longer one. I think it's over 3 miles in length. It's tricky. The infield section in particular is hard to get right. One of the hardest corners is the one into the start to finish straight. You're braking on a corner, so the back end will want to step out. It's a little bit bumpy as well, and then you're into one of the tightest corners on the track. And if you don't get a good exit from that, then your speed down the whole of the start to finish straight is going to be affected quite significantly.
Definitely, as you just mentioned, that corner, one of the trickiest corners. It's a long sweeping right-hander, so you got to imagine with front-wheel drive cars such as these minis, it's going to become quite difficult as tyre wear looms on, especially going into the very tight chicane. People might lock up. I think we've seen in the final corner of Oulton Park a lot of people locking up, and someone who did lock up and quite damaged their tyres very badly kept locking up consistently throughout the race until he did make their pit stop. So these minis like to chew up their front tyres if the ABS isn't on. So we could be in for a great action-packed race. Well, I'm saying could, but I think we're definitely going to be in for a good one. Still, Ross McGregor in first, Sean Jacobs in second, and Jeffrey Fournier in third.
Yeah, just over 4.5 minutes left of qualifying. Steve Kenwood's in 4th place. I say he's in the 2:15s, but it looks to be a very good qualifying position from Steve. Just trying to see how he did in the race 2 weeks ago. Do you know how he did, Sam, 2 weeks ago? Have you got a record of that?
I'm just trying to find it now. It seems I've lost the page on the forum.
No problem. While you research that one out, we've got Tamas Pazzi in 5th place. Just checking through some notes here. He had a really good battle with Koshkin in the race 2 weeks ago. Trying to see where Koshkin is in the qualifying order at the moment. Can't see him there at the moment. Oh, there we are, 11th. Yes, thank you, Davey. Pick up on the name there. So 6th for Thomas Pazzi at the moment, 11th for Pavel Koshkin. Great battle between those two drivers 2 weeks ago. So I'll be interested to see if that's replicated tonight. We also had what was the driver's name? Yes, Andrew Waring. He had an incident early in the race at Alton Park and fought his way back through the field, only to have contact once again. But it was a great battle through the field for him, getting himself back up to the leaders. So he's going to be one to watch today, Andrew Waring.
I've just found out the finishing position of Steve Kenwood in Alton Park, and it was 19th, so I can't quite remember what happened. We might have missed it, or it might not have been broadcast, but possibly he had some issues because he seems very fast today.
Yeah, it does, 4th place, so we'll be very pleased with that improvement. I was having a look at the team championship results. I think I'm correct in saying that Ross raced solos in terms of the team championship last week. His Jeffrey there backing him up this week, currently in 1st and 3rd that team at the moment. So that could make a big difference on the championship. The lap time is about 2 minutes 13 around this circuit. 80-minute race, so I'm guessing 35 or 36 laps, give or take. My calculations show for the race once it gets started. They've got a formation lap as well. 2 times fuel usage has been configured, so I think the most they can do maybe is about 2/3 of the race before they're going to run out of fuel, basically, about 2 litres a lap. So they're going to have to stop tonight in this event. I suppose what might be critical is how many tyres it takes. You mentioned, Sam, that the front tyres wear very heavily, so I think most drivers are going to be taking at least a pair of tyres at the front. But they might be able to save a little bit of time by keeping hold of the rear set of tyres, but that'll also loosen the back of the car up probably with fresh front tyres and warm rear.
Definitely, and I think the left front is going to be quite an issue because of a lot of long sweeping right-handers on this course, especially as we mentioned before, the second to last corner. That's really going to chew up the tyres and possibly pose some problems for these drivers when it comes to the pit stops. And pit stops probably will take place about 40 minutes, 35 minutes towards the end of the race, as they did last time at Alton Park. But Alton Park, I think, actually, in saying that, both cars, but not both cars, but these Mini Coopers can really go around the circuit with your foot fully planted, so fuel usage is probably going to be the same throughout any track. And with the new developments to Snetterton with the infield circuit, I think probably looking at around the same time in the race that we could expect pit stops again. And with just 25 seconds left in the qualifying session, it is Ross McGregor leading the way with a 2:13.471, and Sean Jacobs has now broken into the 2:13s with 2:13.891. And then Jeffrey Fournier with a 2 minutes 14, only person with 2 minutes 14s actually, and then Franklin Stedging with a 2 minutes 15. Steve Kenwood with an also 2 minutes 15, and Thomas Pazzi in 6th position. 7th position is Enzo Fazzi, and 8th is Paul Joseph, and that is the end of qualifying. And Ross McGregor is on pole position so far. I can't really see anyone beating him. Then it's Sean Jacobs and then Jeffrey Fournier. So I'd like to say thanks very much for watching qualifying, and we'll see you in the race. Hello and welcome to the Snetterton race circuit for round 2 of the race department mini challenge. We are about to get underway with the race. We have to do a formation lap, of course. It is a 80-minute race around Snetterton, and if you've just watched qualifying, which I assume you have, or maybe you're just tuning in now for the race, I'm Sam Carmichael, and commentating with me is Jim Nobbs from the Wednesday Formula 3 streams on Twitch, part of Race Department.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. It looks like it's going to be another exciting race here tonight with the minis. I would imagine most drivers are going to be running with the ABS turned on. These cars in the real world would have ABS active, so the drivers have that option enabled in game. But I don't know if any drivers have found it quicker to run with ABS off or not. Probably tyre wear, I imagine, would be a significant impact of running with no with no ABS activated. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point because I remember last time I was in the round one of Alton, the mini championship at Alton Park. A few drivers chose not to run anti-lock brakes, and it was evident when they were locking up into the final corner or maybe shell oils. So it was quite interesting to see the difference between drivers who may like ABS or may not, and see the challenge of trying to keep it off. But as we see the cars making their way on the formation lap, ready to get round and back onto the grid before the start of the race, Ross McGregor is on pole position, same as last week, with Sean Jacobs in second place, very similar to last time out in Alton Park. Then now we have a new racing driver for this event, Jeffrey Fournier. Apparently been around a while in race department, but this is the first time here in the mini championship this season, in season 10 actually, so it's been going quite a while. He's now in third, Jeffrey Fournier, and Franklin Stedging is in fourth, and Steve Kenwood is in fifth. And now an interesting battle to watch out for if the two of them do come together on track will be Pavel Koshkin and Thomas Pazzi. The two of them fought tooth and nail last time at Alton Park, and there was no expense spared between both of them. A few paint rubs and a few little argy-bargy moments off the track, but they definitely sorted themselves out near the end of the race. But if they do come together and find themselves next to each other, I can assure you it'll be a great battle. This race, of course, 80 minutes racing. We got minis, which are sort of slow around these tracks, just over a 2-minute lap time, 2 minutes 10, 2 minutes 14. And yeah, Jim, do you have any idea of how this race is going to pan out?
Well, as you mentioned, Ross McGregor, he was very consistent in the first race. He's up in the lead in pole position. So I would expect him to hopefully maintain that consistency and lead the field away. Hopefully, he will be looking to try and develop a gap over the rest of the field. Sean Jacobs was the only other man to get into the 2 minutes and 13s, and everybody else was I think around half a second behind, trying to remember the qualifying times. Certainly the top three were the only ones to be significantly quicker. The rest of the field were down in the 15s, if I recall.
Yes, they were from fourth downwards, sorry.
And we have, unfortunately, got one no-show tonight. Andrew Waring was going to be a man we would have been watching tonight, I would imagine. Unfortunately, he's a no-show. There were some steam problems earlier on, so I'm hoping he's not been affected by those. But yeah, Andrew Waring won't be taking part in tonight's event.
As the first car in pole position, Ross McGregor is heading to the grid now to start on pole position. I did notice on that lap, I think it was Sean Jacobs ran a bit wide coming out the chicane from the back straight. I don't know if that was desync on my part, but I did notice his car go off track and then just come back on rather quickly, so maybe he's cooled his tyres a bit down with that excursion on the grass. But as we can see, Ross McGregor now lining up on the front row, taking his position on pole, with all the drivers heading now onto the grid. I remember last time, I can't quite remember who it was, but with Alton Park starting grid, it's almost on a hill, just going up deer leap, and a lot of drivers I think were almost rolling back when they were in first gear. But the final car is in position now, and we are getting ready to go for the race.
Yes, the lights will be coming on shortly. The sets of lights go on, they're on now, and they're off. A lot of smoke clearing. He seems to have got away. Ross seems to make a good start. Sean Jacobs just behind. I think that's Jeffrey Fournier sneaking through on the inside line and turn one. So I think Jeffrey Fournier might sneak into second place by the end of that corner. Everybody seemed to make it off the line safely. Franklin Stedging still in fourth place with Steve Kenwood behind. Ross McGregor clearly in the lead, and Jeffrey Fournier, I think, is going to make that move as they come out of the corner. Though Sean Jacobs having a look back on the inside, the exit. No, Jeffrey has made that overtake. Six to Jeffrey Fournier up into second place.
course, as you mentioned before, Jeffrey Fournier is admitted Ross McGregor, so 1-2 out front, isn't it?
Yeah, Ross will be thankful to see Jeffrey just there. Both drivers were looking to maybe get a bit of a gap over Sean Jacobs and the rest of the field, but Ross McGregor will certainly be pleased to see Jeffrey behind him rather than Sean Jacobs or any of the other drivers. Bit of a slide there, I think, there for Sean, just as he's trying to get some heat into those tyres. What you tend to find in the mini races, the racing is very close. The cars are very evenly matched. There's a limited amount of changes the drivers can make to the setup, which means it's primarily driver skill that gives you a faster lap time than the others out there on track.
Heading to the end of the first lap, Ross McGregor taking the chicane just at the end of the back straight as they head on to the long sweeping right-hander, which could possibly pose a problem for some of these drivers, especially if they try and go too wide. You could edge your opponent out onto the grass and then he could be in the wall. But I think we'd seen some intense action last time at Upton Park, but everything was fair when it came down to it. There was no intentional hunting of people off track. So it was all very good racing, and it looks like further down the field, is that?
So I don't know if Franklin's second just running wide there, is getting a lot of pressure there from Enzo Fazzi. Second out onto the grass, loses 2 places I think, and a third as well as Rob Milligan goes last. So unfortunately mistake for Franklin, and it's cost him quite dearly. 3 places lost due to just running wide on one corner. It's something the drivers are going to have to be very careful of. In Automobilista, if you have too many track violations, as in many games, if you have too many track violations or track limit violations, you get a drive-through penalty. It's an 80-minute race, and you're allowed 3 violations. On the 4th, you will get a drive-through, and for every subsequent track limit violation, you get another drive-through. So any excursions these drivers make that incur penalty counts, they will have to be very careful. Although we're driving on very carefully once they get to the 3rd one to avoid that drive-through. So Ross McGregor has Jeffrey Fournier close up right behind him. Just 3/10 separating the two at the moment. Sean Jacobs is still there, trying to close that gap. He's about another 7/10 back, and then it is 2 more seconds back to Enzo Fazzi in 4th place. So these leading 3 seem to be pulling out a little bit of a gap at the moment.
Yes, I definitely think it was expected with the times the 3 of them were setting in qualifying, almost a second quicker than everyone else in the field, possibly even 2 seconds. So it does look like the top 3 are splitting away from the pack, but there's exciting action further down the field. I think around about 14th to 9th, there's a whole train of cars. Pavel Koshkin at the end of the first lap did go wide at the final chicane and lost a few positions outside the top 10, so that was unlucky for him. I think he got pushed wide by a few people as they were going side by side, but everything seems to have been alright now. And I did see, I can't quite see who that was, I think it was Thomas Hintz. He was weaving quite erratically coming off the hairpin on the second lap, so I might have got some grass on the tyres and he just tried to get that off.
Yes, Steve Legale and Paul Joseph up to the 10th. That battle is certainly quite close at the moment.
Jeffrey Fournier has dropped to 3rd position. I just caught it as I switched back between drivers, and it looked like he might have got a bit of understeer on the long right-hander coming up to the final chicane type corner, and he ran wide, ran straight across and conceded the position to Sean Jacobs. So that's one of his cuts meant for the race, so he only has 2 more options now unless he gets a drive-through penalty, and Sean Jacobs runs wide off the hairpin, and it looks like Jeffrey Fournier might get a chance to go up the inside, running into the inner loop section. He tries to go up the inside of the corner, but it looks like Sean Jacobs will be able to hold it around the outside. Yep, and Sean Jacobs is still in 2nd position.
Yeah, so that battle between Sean and Jeffrey, that's that's playing to Enzo Fazzi's hands at the moment. The gap between Sean and Ross in the lead has opened up significantly as those two drivers battle and obviously waste a little bit of time in doing so. So Enzo Fazzi now is just 8/10 behind Jeffrey Fournier, and I believe Steve Kenwood is another 8/10 behind as well. So it's interesting to see how that battle for second and third really plays out. To see if Enzo can keep pace with the leading drivers.
Bit out of shape from Sean Jacobs there as he gone onto the back straight because Jeffrey have a look down the inside or possibly getting the slipstream for the next chicane. Nose to tail as they head down underneath the bridge. It doesn't look like he's going to try and make a move. It looks like he's edging towards the outside, but he probably could dive towards the inside. It looks like Sean Jacobs is covering him off nicely. It'd be a very risky manoeuvre going into that corner side by side because it tightens up very quickly into that sharp right-hander, but it looks like Jeffrey is alongside going into the right-hander. Can he get past him? It looks like, yep, and Jeffrey Fournier is into second position, but now Enzo Fazzi is hot on the tail of Sean Jacobs heading into the second long right-hander into the very tight final corner. It looks like he's going to try and go around the outside, but it does look like he got on the marbles a bit and ran out of a bit. He looks a bit out of shape. Can he look up the brakes and get it stopped in time? Yes, he does, and he's into the corner, but he is also coming under pressure from Steve Kenwood now, who is also trying to get a good run down the front straight to possibly try and pass him. It looks like he might be moving onto the inside or the outside, but this is great racing, isn't it, Jim?
Certainly is. Steve Kenwood getting great run down that straight, picking up the slipstream of Enzo Fazzi. Steve Kenwood qualifying really well for this event. 5th place, I believe, when qualifying ended. And who's that? Enzo Fazzi running wide. Could this be an opportunity for Steve Kenwood? I think Enzo Fazzi is going to keep hold of it, but a little bit of tyre smoke. But clearly, Enzo feeling a little bit of pressure there from Steve Kenwood in 5th place. This battle, in fact, is pretty much a 4-way battle at the moment. So it's Sean Jacobs in 3rd, Enzo Fazzi in 4th, Steve Kenwood in 5th place. And then there's a little bit of gap, about 2-second gap back to Franklin Steggink in the blue car. You can see in the background of the shots there.
And further down the field in 11th and 12th place we have Alex Schmerz against Thomas Hintz. We're going side by side just after the hairpin, and it seems to be, not sure if that's a bit of contact, but Schmerz runs wide and Thomas Hintz carries on. Schmerz does keep it out the barriers, but he loses a position to, I think that was Pavel Koshkin. Both of them lose the position actually, but Alex Schmerz is back ahead of Thomas Hintz, so Thomas Hintz did wait and let him back, so maybe it was Thomas Hintz that pushed him wide, and very sportsman of him to let him through into his original position.
You could see in the background, I'm sure it was picked up by the camera team there, Sergio Manuel running wide rather. Another driver, Mike McGear, also running wide, but he's back in 18th place at the moment. So side by side went Steve Legale and Paul Joseph. That's 9th and 10th place. Steve Legale, I think, has just managed to make his way past Paul Joseph. I'm not sure if that order has changed or not, but Steve Legale in 9th place at the moment. He'll be looking to try and close that gap up to 8th place Thomas Pazzi. That is a 1.5 second gap at the moment. And he, in turn, is chasing down Rob Milliken in 7th place.
Of course, I feel since the race is just a few laps in now, about 4 laps in, just as Ross McGregor comes across the line. If you have any questions in chat, if you're watching on YouTube or Twitch, please ask them, and then possibly some moderators or even staff members might be lurking around in the chat, or we can answer your questions if you do have any queries regarding the series. And just as I'm saying that, it looks like Enzo Fazzi and Steve Kenwood are trying to go side by side through the first corner, and Steve Kenwood does get pushed out wide, but he still keeps the position and stays on track.
Yeah, it's pretty much inevitable with 2 wide on that first corner, being it's a fairly high speed one. If you're on the outside, you're going to end up having a little trip across the grass. But I don't think it really costs you much time if that occurs. The game does allow. I mentioned the track violations earlier. The game does allow for the driver easing off the throttle. So you tend to be less likely to get a violation if you've backed off the throttle when you've taken a detour across the grass than if you keep it flat down. Yes, Enzo Fazzi there into the wall. He's going to lose several places. He's got it back out. Can he join the track cleanly? It's a difficult place to join.
He seems to have stopped his car, and he's back into the pit lane, and it looks like he has suspension damage.
Yes, he does. So a shame for Enzo Fazzi, who's doing very well. 9 Paul Joseph and Pavel Kochkin battling hard. Pavel Kochkin there in the purple car with Paul Joseph just ahead. So Steve Galley, he has managed to get himself up into 8th place. I'm guessing that's because of the retirement of Enzo Fazzi, so that's the place gained there for Steve Galley. But he has managed to pull out a gap away from Paul Joseph, who picked up on that overtake earlier in the broadcast.
While we were talking then and discussing Enzo Fazzi's retirement, we did miss another retirement on lap 3. Dennis Fellon with the Team Margarita Mini Cooper. I'm trying to reverse my game to have a look in the replay to see what happened, but it doesn't seem to be going far enough behind, unfortunately. So we did miss what happened to him, unfortunately, and he is out of the race.
In 12th place, Yapki Zamora, Sergio Manuel and Leon Charmant. Apologies for those for butchering those names there, but they're having a bit of a three-way fight for 12th at the moment. Less than a second separates all 3 drivers as they come onto the start-finish straight. The slipstream effect is not significant in these cars, so you really have to be tucked in very close behind to be able to try and get an overtake down that start-finish straight. And a big slide for Zamora there. Can he keep control? He does. He's weaving in front of Sergio Manuel, but Sergio keeps the foot down. He's going to be on the outside as he tries to turn in. A little bit of contact, bit of paint grabbing. Both cars sliding through the corner. Zamora's keeping hold of it. I can't tell if he's managed to get the place. Sergio's in front. Yes, he has. He cuts across to take the racing line through the next corner. And all this is going on with Leon loitering in the background. He'll be hoping to pick up on any incidents that those 2 drivers have, and they would pan out in his favour. So a place lost there for Yapchi Zamora. And have dirty tyres as well if you're going to drive over the apex like that. Don't remember to give him a track violation, but this is certainly a hard-fought battle there for 12th, 13th, and 14th place at the moment. Once again having a little look on the inside, but Sergio doesn't fall for it. Keeps to his racing line. Moore's picking up a little bit of a slipstream. I expect he's going to be trying to make an overtake as Sergio does a defensive line. Goes side by side. Sergio's going to have the racing line into the corner. Zamora's on the outside. He's going to try and hold it through. It's very difficult braking here. You're braking on the corner, but Zamora gets the inside line on the next corner. There's contact. Sergio runs a little bit wide, but Zamora takes that place back. So Zamora is back up into 12th. But meanwhile, Leon is trying to capitalise on the loss of speed by Sergio. Don't think he's going to make it through. He's still got the inside though. But as they brake now for the next corner, Sergio Manuel will have the inside lane, but Leon's made it through. He managed to get past before the brake is open. He's going to run wide. He made a mistake there, so Sergio Manuel takes that place back, and Leon Charman's probably going to lose a place, if not 2, by that mistake. So he's lost 3 places now. I think, yes, he's back in 16th place, so 2 places, sorry, lost there by Leon Charman by that running wide on the last corner as he battled with Sergio. And Zamora spun, yes, he's only lost it in turn 1, so Zamora has spun off heavily into the wall. So after fighting so hard to get that position back, he loses it on the very next corner, and that's cost him dearly. He's now back into 17th place, so Leon Charman, who was fighting with Zamora and Sergio, and it really does seem that Sergio has gained the most out of all that battle. He managed to keep it on track, and he keeps hold of 12th place.
Yes, excellent racing so far. Do you think that Zamora might have a bit of damage from that? Because he's definitely losing position soon as Norman Bruce goes past him, so we might see him into the pit lane a bit earlier than usual, possibly fix some damage, because it did look like he did spin off into the wall there.
Sorry Sam, yes, it does look like he's possibly got a little bit of turning to one side. I think we'll have to wait to see if he pits very early. When it's an 80-minute race, they can do about 70% of that on a single tank with the 2 times fuel usage we've got configured tonight. So I guess it would be a very early stop, but I think he would be able to make it all the way through to the end. I think they can do 60 minutes on a single tank if he wants to come in and take fresh tyres, have repairs, and take a full tank of fuel.
Just as you were saying that, Thomas Hintz has moved alongside Sergio Mangal, and he makes the pass just under the bridge, and he is now up into 13th position. He looks like he runs wide, and Sergio Mangal gets back through in the chicane. 3 cars in that battle right now with Leon Charmant after his off before. So I think this is the closest battle on the track at the moment, or within a second of each other. 3 cars. It looks like Leon's going to try and go up the inside of Thomas, but he thinks better of it and lets them go through the long right-hander into the final corner. It looks like Thomas went to have a dive, but I think he was too far back from Sergio to make any impression. Going back to the YouTube chat though, we got a question from Lorenzo Bonda, who, if you are familiar with Race Department, you will know he's not a casual viewer, but he asked what matters more in Snetterton, time management or driving pace. I think with slow cars like the Mini Coopers, it's more about trying to keep a solid momentum up. And especially with a pit stop in the 80-minute race, it's possible to sort of chew down your tyres, but you don't want to overuse your tyres so much as to mean you will have to pit early. But I think having a consistent speed throughout Snetterton and momentum, getting in a good rhythm, I think that's important as well as tyre management. So I think both are equally as important as in any car, really. So I hope that answers your question, Lorenzo.
Now, Steve Legally has managed to fight his way to 6th place. Sorry, I just had to grab a drink of water, had a tickle in the throat. Yeah, Steve Legally up into 6th place. He's got Tamas Pazzi just behind, but a battle that raged from the first league event 2 weeks ago between Pazzi and Koshkin could turn out to transpire again. Koshkin's in 9th, Pazzi's in 7th. There's about 2 seconds separating them, I think, at the moment.
Now that will be definitely an interesting battle. See, reunited them 2 back on track together next to each other, fighting for positions. I think it'll be an excellent show if they do show up together. Going back to YouTube again though, we might have some information on Enzo Fazzi's retirement from the race. It says suspension on my thing, so that's what I presumed it was, but it appears that he is unwell with the flu, so he had to stop. He was fine yesterday and he's been a bit ill today, so we wish you all the best in recovering from the flu. Right, back to the actual race. We have Ross McGregor in the lead, followed by Sean Jacobs in second, Jeffrey Fournier in third, Franklin Stedging in fourth, Steve Kenwood in fifth, 6th is Steve Legales, 7th is Thomas Paggi, 8th is Rob Milliken, 9th is Pavel Koshkin, 10th is Paul Joseph, 11th is Alex Schmertz, 12th Mike McGeer, 13th Thomas Hintz, 14th Leon Charmant, 15th Sergio Mengual, 16th John Suter, 17th Norman Bruce, 18th Catalin Sassu, 19th Christian Schumann, 20th Ingemar Peterson, 21st Jacques Jamora, 22nd Bram Henfeld, 23rd Enzo Fazzi and 24th Dennis Fellon, with Enzo Fazzi and Dennis Fellon being the only retirements of this race, one on lap 4 and one on lap 3.
Now Franklin second in 4th place. Steve Kenwood just behind. That's battle has been going on for some laps. There's just half a second separating the two. Steve Kenwood in the distinctive green car just behind. It's just coming up to an hour left of the race now.
Now, if I remember correctly, Steve Kenwood finished the last race at Alton Park around 18th or 19th, and I think he must have had some issues because he's been blindingly quick throughout the sessions today, and evidence as he's coming up behind Franklin Stedging now, putting pressure on the Bose car, the blue coloured car, as they come through the final couple of turns now. It's a very fast circuit, Snetterton. It was much faster previous to its redevelopments, but I think you probably would have got round here at 1 minute 30 previous to the inner section being added, but still, the time flies in these Mini Cooper races. I mean, I was speaking to Dan last week in the commentary booth, and we couldn't believe how fast it had gone. Is it the same for you, Jim? Because these races, I mean, we're already with an hour to go. It just seems like it's going so quickly.
Yeah, it doesn't. You think 80 minutes is going to be almost a bit of an endurance race, but certainly probably is for the drivers actually out there. But with the amount of action that you get on track, the time seems to pass really quickly. And Steve Kenwood is picking up the pace a little bit. I think he's closing that gap ever so slightly. It was about half a second, if not 6/10 when we first joined, but he's really right on the tail as they head through that tight corner there of Franklin Stegging.
So another battle I'm watching is the battle between Thomas Hintz and Leon Sharman. Both of them in 13th and 14th, and I believe Leon might be a newcomer this week with the default car skin. I didn't recognise him from last week, so he looks to be going around the outside on the hairpin, but it just looks as if he outbroke himself, and there's a lot of tyre smoke coming from these minis as they try and get them turned in. But especially that is a problem with front wheel drive cars, so as tyre wear goes on in this race, especially as you mentioned before. Is it 2 times tyre wear, did you say, or was it 2 times fuel usage?
Just the fuel usage, I believe. I don't think there's any increase for tyre wear.
And that is the voice of God. Actually, no, it's not. It's the voice of Davey, our cameraman, and he is, as ever, capturing all the footage that you see on the screen. And we'd just like to say a big thank you to him, because without that, we wouldn't be here talking to you about anything. It'd just be a black screen. So thanks very much, Davey, for operating the cameras.
And the leader, Ross McGregor, if you've been paying attention to the split times on the left of the screen there, he's pulled out a 10-second lead over his teammate Sean Jacobs. Sean himself has also got a comfortable bit of space back to Jeffrey Fournier in 3rd place. But it's still this battle between Franklin Stegging and Steve Kenwood that is one of the closest on the track at the moment. Steve Kenwood does seem to have the better line around this last sequence of corners into the start-finish straight, but he doesn't seem to be able to quite capitalise on the exit speed down that start-finish to pick up the slipstream of Franklin into turn 1. Yes, indeed, yes. And both of these two drivers are fighting for fourth and 5th place, excuse me. They've got a bit of space. They've got Steve McGalley behind in 6th place. He's keeping hold of 6th place. Thomas Pazzi just behind him. About 3 seconds further behind Steve McGalley. So, Franklin Stegging and Steve Kenwood fighting hard. There's still plenty of time on track, and the pit stops are going to be quite critical. I think my gut says that most drivers are going to be taking just fuel, obviously, and front tyres. I think they'll keep hold of the rears. It's about 7 seconds per tyre, so obviously if they took a full set rather than just the front 2, that's going to increase their stop by a full 14 seconds, and it's very hard to pick up 14 seconds over somebody else out on track. So it would be worth, I think, taking that gamble, keeping the worn rear tyres and gaining 14 seconds in your pit stop. I think we're going to see those pit stops maybe around the I'm thinking around the 40-minute mark, a little bit, more than a little bit over halfway. I think the drivers will push it as long as they can on these tyres, and then use that as a judgment as to whether they take 4 tyres or just 2.
Definitely. If I was in their position, I think I'd only take the front tyres, because I think in front-wheel drive cars it's very hard to keep the rear tyres warm, and especially if you've done so many laps throughout 45 minutes of stint with rear tyres on, they're not going to wear much, and they'll be very warm. So trying to get rear tyres warm again in a front-wheel drive car takes some time, and I think it's something that will lose you an edge in a race like this. So I think the ideal strategy would be take, as you said, 2 tyres, and probably and we will see them around about 40 minutes to go mark. Last time in Oldham Park we did see quite a few people pitting late. I think someone also pitted twice leading to the end, and I think he did lose a few positions. I think he had an off though, and possibly lost part of the car in the barrier somewhere. But as I was saying, that Christian Schumann seems to have retired from the race. It's coming up again on my screen with suspension, but I can't really tell if it was until now. I tried going back on the replay to see what happened, and it was sort of a desync thing, but it did look like it was turn 1 where the incident happened and he went back to the pit lane. So if we get any more information on that, as we did with Enzo Fazzi, we will convey it to you through the broadcast. But once again, looking back, at first position is Ross McGregor with an 11-second gap now. Can anyone catch Ross McGregor?
Well, he could probably afford to take a full set of tyres if he so desires, and have pretty much 14 seconds in hand, give or take. Yes, certainly going well for Ross McGregor at the moment. Now, that battle between Franklin Stegic and Steve Kenwood for 4th place, they've got a little bit of lap traffic coming up. They've got Catalin Sassu just ahead of them. And we'll have to see how Catalin deals with the sight of 2 racing drivers appearing in his rearview mirror and driving very hard. Gap is closing, and Catalin runs a little bit wide, so that plays fortunate for both drivers. It allows them straight through, but Steve Kendra seems to have gained a little bit of time and closed that gap on Franklin. I don't think he's going to be getting the slipstream as they go down the back straight, Bentley Straight, I believe it's called. Now, there's 2 corners on this circuit that myself, when I've driven them, I've found particularly hard, and this is one of them as they enter it. This left-hander, you're braking, as you can see the cars there, they're braking on that left-hander, trying to keep control of it and make that apex of the right-hander. And it's not long before they go into the last turn, and it's the braking on the second to last turn that again I found particularly tricky, trying to get that car turned in without the back stepping out too much. And you can see the drivers feathering that brake a little bit and that throttle as Steve Kenwood runs a little bit wide, so Franklin making a much better way through the last sequence of corners.
Just as you were talking then, Thomas Hint and Leon Sharman continued their battle down the back straight. They were side by side, but Thomas Hint defended very well and very cleanly into the chicane just after the bridge, and he is still in front. This is definitely a battle we should be watching throughout the rest of the race and keep an eye on, because both of them are within half a second of each other, and they have been for some laps now. It looks like Sergio Mangel might be catching up and rejoining that battle to make it a 3-car battle once again. In the background of that, though, is John Suter in 16th position, and just behind him is Bram Henfeld, the owner of Race Department, I believe. He is unfortunately a lap down, so he is 21st position. And behind John Suter in 17th position is Norman Bruce.
Yes, I was just going to say thank you, Davey. Well, that Milliken P8, he's got Thomas Pazzi half a second ahead, and he's got Pavel Koshkin driving very hard behind. Heavy under braking there, Pavel closing that gap, just 4 tenths and 3 tenths now between the 2. Pavel does seem to have the better exit there. Not long enough a straight there for Pavel to look at an overtake, and it's now the gap now down to 2 tenths. So Pavel's certainly picking up a little bit of time and pushing Rob and Milliken very hard indeed. On to, I think this is the back straight once more. Yes, Pavel Koshkin's got the run on Rob. So Rob's going to be defending into the next left-hander, but if Pavel can keep on track on the outside line through the first left-hander, then he'll have the inside and racing line on the right-hander that's immediately afterwards. A little bit of rubbing, a little bit of contact, Rob getting pushed sideways. They both make it through. It's almost inevitable if you stick to that outside line, trying to keep the overtake going, that you're going to end up with a little bit of contact. You're off the racing line, the marbles start to take effect, and the braking force you can apply is much reduced. So Pavel tries to get past, doesn't make it this time, but that battle is still raging as they enter the start-finish straight. Pavel running a little bit wide, taking the momentum going. Seem to be closing. He's hoping for that slipstream effect to start, but it probably only is going to start to have an effect as they come to the end of this straight. There's not enough overlap for Pavel to put an overtake there. He gets a not quite so good line, but Rob Milliken's car's weaving with those worn tyres that he must be having at the moment, or all drivers will be having at the moment. So that's paid dividends for Pavel Koshkin. He makes his way through on the inside. Rob Milliken giving him a little bit of a nudge, a little bit of push, a little bit of bumper rubbing, but they both make it through that corner safely. And Pavel Koshkin is now up into 8th place.
Of course.
Sorry, Sam, go ahead.
No, I was just about to say there was a lap car in the fray there, which sort of tried to take evasive action, spun out just in front of the 2 cars. I'm not sure who that was. I'll try and check. I believe that was Catalin Sasu. They'd already been in the pit lane, that car previous in the race, so I'm not sure what had happened, and that was probably why they were a lap down. But yeah, that was a close one for the drivers in 8th and 9th and 10th.
Well, Rob Milliken was heavily involved with that battle between himself and Pavel. He's got Paul Joseph seems to be closing that gap as well, so I'm not sure if Rob is struggling with tyre weight. Certainly seems to be smoking those tyres a lot, particularly on the exit of corners. I don't know if he's very heavy with his right foot, so the front tyres are spinning up and smoking on exit. If he's been doing that for the previous 40 minutes or so of this race, then his front tyres are going to be paying a hard price for that driving style. The gap has already opened up between himself and Pavel Koshkin, up to almost 2 seconds now.
Yeah, and so I think this might be a good time to discuss if anyone is out there and they are interested in getting involved with the Race Department League. You can choose on over to racedepartment.com, get a premium membership, try out some league racing, and it's just a great atmosphere, isn't it, Jim? It's just top class racing. Obviously you get the occasional incident or two, but it's mostly racing incidents, no malicious intent at all. It's just a great community and a great forum really, and I strongly recommend if you do want to get into league racing, this is definitely the place to do it.
It is indeed. The club events are very, very friendly indeed, and these league events, they require a little bit more practice, but certainly very fun indeed. But as we talk about that, we've got Alex Smertz and Mike McGeer going side by side. 11th and 12th place, and Mike McGeer makes a very clean overtake on Alex Smertz in the yellow car. Mike McGeer in the purple with a white stripe. So a place gain for Mike up into 11th place. He's got plenty of in front of him now, though. It's another 9 seconds ahead of Mike McGeer for 10th place Paul Joseph. And he'll be wanting to get into that 10. I don't know what it is about the top 10, but it's always nice if you manage to make it into the top 10 of any race.
Of course, as you mentioned before, Paul Joseph and Rob Milliken in battle. Very close to each other on the racetrack, it looked like. Rob Milliken had a bit of understeer coming through that right-hand turn, and not sure Paul Joseph will make a lunge into that corner, but as they head onto the back straight now, going under the bridge, they are in the slipstream. Can he make a move down into the corner? A little bit. Forget how long this straight is actually. I thought we were coming up to the bridge quite soon, but yep, they've just passed under the bridge and going into the chicane. It does look like it has remained the same. But yeah, we're definitely seeing some interesting battles and side-by-side action. Probably not as much as Alton Park. Alton Park is very, for a narrow circuit like Alton Park with a lot of undulations, we saw quite a lot of side-by-side racing. This is mostly, I think, because of the nature of the circuit, of how fast it is, and you've got to follow the car in front. It is more single file, but of course we are getting some great overtakes when people are side-by-side.
So Ross McGregor still comfortably in the lead. He has a 13-second gap over Sean Jacobs in second place, his teammate. 45 minutes left on the clock. I would expect to start to see a few drivers considering pit stops about now. Certainly when you're comfortably in the lead like Ross, it might be, well, I guess if you're driving comfortably, you've got consistency, you want to stay out as long as possible rather than interrupting that with a pit stop. And the risk always happens when you come out on pit stop, fresh tyres, different level of fuel in the cars, handle it a little bit differently. Getting back up to race speed can be difficult. The best of the drivers will be back on it straight away, back into the rhythm, and I'm sure that will be the case for Ross and McGregor. He's got about 14-second lead now over his teammate Sean Jacobs, so he could almost take a full set of tyres and still come out ahead of Sean if Sean only took front two. I think the wear that we were seeing on who was it? Was it? I'm trying to remember which driver we were watching. Was it Rob Milliken? That's right. Rob Milliken was losing. I think the wear we're seeing on Rob's front tyres was what was causing him to lose those places and now to be pressured by Paul Joseph quite considerably.
Yes, I've been watching this battle for the past 2 laps now, and it's very exciting stuff with both drivers very close to each other on the racetrack. Definitely with the minis, there's a sense of if you make one mistake, the driver behind could just pass you straight away, and then it could be very hard to get past because these are equal spec cars and it's all down to driver skill, and drivers that are very similarly matched. If you do make a mistake in front and then the other driver gets past, it's very hard to try and get back in front of them, especially with the track of Snetterton as well, with a very fast flowing circuit. There isn't many slow corners, and the slow corners that they do have lead into fast braking zones, so it's a tricky mix between these two cars.
Thomas Pazzi in 7th, Pavel Koshkin in 8th. So Pavel after overtaking Rob Milliken, not far ahead of either of those two drivers, so this could end up being a 3-way for 6th place. Steve Legale currently in 6th. Thomas in 7th, Pavel Koshkin in 8th. So we have 43 minutes now left on the clock.
And on track, it looks like Pavel Koshkin has caught up to the back of Thomas Pazzi, and we could be seeing a repeat of what happened at Alton Park, the two of them going at it. It was an exciting battle with the two of them colliding at Knickerbrook chicane, deemed a racing incident by the stewards post-race, and it was, oh, it looks like Pavel Koshkin's making a move up the inside. Can he make it stick? Yeah, it does look like Thomas Pazzi concedes the corner and is relegated to 8th position, and Pavel Koshkin moves up into 7th place.
So I think so. Pavel Koshkin, I think there is that correct. He got past Thomas Pazzi. I'm getting a lot of lag on my computer at the moment, so it's hard for me to pick up on that action. But it looks. Am I correct in thinking, Sam, that Pavel Koshkin has managed to get past Thomas up into 7th place?
Yes, he has. A very clean move into the hairpin of the inner loop. Great overtake, well calculated, and just on the brakes a lot better than Thomas Pazzi into that corner as we approach the halfway point in this race.
Yeah, these two drivers, Thomas and Pavel, they had a great battle in the previous event, and we knew they were only a couple of positions apart after qualifying, and it's transpired that they are next to each other on track. Thomas Pazzi is not being left behind by Pavel at the moment. He's still there, close in his rear view mirror.
Also on track in the 11th and 12th position, Mike McGear is coming under pressure from Thomas Hint. He is only half a second behind him as they come to the final chicane. It looks like Thomas Hint has been gaining on him quite a lot, actually. We did have Leon Charman behind Thomas Hint recently.
Interrupt you, Sam, because Thomas Pazzi is side by side with Pavel Koshkin as they enter into turn 1. Pavel had the inside line, so the positions remain the same, but Thomas getting a very nice exit of the last corner, taking him almost to an overtake opportunity, but Pavel defended well and keeps hold of 6th place. Sorry to interrupt you there, Sam.
Oh no, it's perfectly fine. There's a lot more action going on where you were looking rather than where I was looking.
Just a little bit further back, Rob Milliken, Paul Joseph, that battle is featured several times already this evening, and yes, Rob Milliken in 8th place, just 3/10 behind is Paul Joseph. They've got a little bit of space around them though, so they can safely have that battle without risk of getting anybody else involved.
as we do hit the halfway marker in this race, we have some great battles emerging between two cars on track separately. We have the battle between Pavel Koshkin and Thomas Pazzi, Rob Milliken and Paul Joseph, and Thomas Hintz and Mike McGeer. 3 battles, 6 cars. It's panning out to be an exciting race as we move into the second stage and expect some pit stops in the near future.
Yeah, Mike McGeer certainly being pressured by Thomas Hintz behind. Thomas seems to be getting the better line through the corners. Maybe he's managed to preserve his tyres just that little bit more and keep that wear level under control. As they enter into the back straight, it is indeed. I think Thomas is getting a little bit of a run. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get side by side there before the end of the straight. There we go, under the bridge. No, he doesn't. So Mike McGee able to turn in clearly ahead of Thomas. Another corner or two and they'll be entering into the braking zone for the last corner. And Thomas is really closing up that gap, hoping to be right under the rear wing of that purple Mini just in front.
While this battle is going on, Sean Jacobs has just pitted from second place and is hopefully going to be back out within the top 10. He might come out just in front of this battle that you're commentating on. I'll let you get back to it quickly.
Otherwise, yes, Thomas Hintz didn't quite get the exit onto the start finish straight that he would have been wanting. So Mike McGee is going to be safe as they head down there. Yes, looking for Sean Jacobs, down into 8th place now. Is he on the move yet? I couldn't see him in the pits. No, so oh, he's out on track. Sorry, he's out on track. Isn't he, Sean Jacobs? He managed to come out in 8th place. That is in front of this battle between Mike McGee and Thomas Hintz, but a comfortable 6 seconds ahead. He'll be able to get his tyres back up to temperature, back into the rhythm of the race, and they'll be hoping to pick up those 7 places that he, or 6 places rather, that he lost when all the other drivers hit.
Oh, and it looks like Thomas Pazzi is going up the inside of Pavel Koshkin at the corner where Koshkin passed him previously, and it does look like he's got the move done. The green car and the purple car going at it once again in the race department mini challenge, going side by side through the very fast left-hand kink. Koshkin tries to go around the outside, but that was never going to work. He runs wide onto the grass. Can he get it back? Yeah. Oh, he's side by side with Thomas Pazzi, and he gets past him. I'm not entirely sure about that. I possibly should have lifted when he went onto the grass there, but they're still side by side remarkably after half a lap going through past the inner loop, and they're going to be on the back straight now. Koshkin trying to get the undercut through the final corner onto the back straight. Looks like they will be in the slipstream though, but behind that there seems to be a 3-car battle going on. Koshkin looking to the inside of Pazzi.
Yeah, I was going to say, Paul Joseph, he's got Sean Jacobs just behind. Sean's just been to the pits. He's trying to, well, he doesn't want to get held up by these drivers. He was in 2nd place, and now he's got to fight his way through the field. Depends if these guys come in and pit soon, or whether they stay out for a longer stint. If they do, that could hamper Sean Jacobs' chances of maintaining or getting 2nd place back, rather, as he gets held up by these drivers further down the field. But this is a battle for position, of course. Paul Joseph and Rob Milliken rather as well, just in front. They don't have to give anything to Sean Jacobs. He's got to fight his way past these cars as Paul Joseph goes into the pit, so that's going to be helpful for Sean Jacobs. He's one less person to overtake.
And now Jeffrey Fournier has just left the pits and he's side by side with Sean Jacobs, but he concedes the place as he's obviously a bit slower coming out the pit lane, and Sean Jacobs did lose quite a big chunk of time there during that battle, so possibly quite lucky Jeffrey Fournier did pit then. Maybe if he would have stayed out a lap and Sean Jacobs would have been held up a bit more, Jeffrey Fournier could have made the position up into 2nd place. But I did notice when Sean Jacobs did leave the pit lane from his pit stop, he was side by side with the battle between Rob Milliken and Paul Joseph, and he chose to let both of the drivers pass. Maybe that was a decision he regretted later in the lap as he tried to get past them anxiously. But he did give them racing room, and obviously they were in a battle side by side, so maybe that's why Sean Jacobs tries to make the move up the inside of the hairpin, runs a bit wide, and can Jeffrey Fournier capitalise because he runs wide onto the grass, and he doesn't. Jeffrey Fournier is into 2nd position, and Sean Jacobs losing that position, and when I imagine the pit stops filter out, Sean Jacobs will be in 3rd position.
It's very gentlemanly driving from Sean there when he came out of the pits with that battle raging next to him. He may have been thinking that he's not something he wanted to get involved in. The last thing he wants with 35 to 40 minutes left on the clock to come out of the pits, instantly get involved in a battle and end up being punted off or involved in some sort of into turn one. So that might have been why he chose to let those two drivers past. As we see Rob Milliken and Jeffrey Fournier side by side. Jeffrey has got the position on the timing board there. Can he keep hold of it? So yes, he's clearly passed it. Turns in. Rob Milliken now down to 7th place. So Sean Jacobs makes his way through there very quickly. So Sean Jacobs picking that place up very quickly. Rob Milliken, I think, lost a little bit of momentum, allowing Sean Jacobs to capitalise. So this battle, I think, that we're going to see between 5th and 6th as it stands at the moment, Jeffrey Fournier and Sean Jacobs. Am I correct in thinking, Sam, that was 2nd and 3rd, that it's swapped over now? So Sean was in 2nd, Jeffrey was in 3rd before both of those drivers pitted, and now it's the other way round.
Yes, you are correct in thinking that, and also while that battle was raging, Pavel Koshkin has got back past Thomas Pazzi. He'd done it on the sector 3 of the circuit. Some rigorous defending from Koshkin as Pazzi tried to get the undercut out of the chicane following the back straight. But it does look like them two drivers will be going quite long into the stint, and am I correct in thinking Sean Jacobs has just ran wide off the first corner?
I didn't catch that because I was just looking to see what was going on with your battle. I think, yes, he's lost, the gap has certainly extended a little bit, so he's lost, it's extended up to a second or two, so I didn't see it myself in the face, Sam. But yeah, if a few more mistakes like that from Sean, and he may not be able to hang on to Jeffrey. P3, thank you, Davey. P3 then is Pavel Koshkin. They're side by side. Thomas Pazzi, Pavel Koshkin. Thomas has got the inside line. Koshkin on the marble. So yes, Pazzi now 3rd, Koshkin 4th. These two drivers, they've had a great battle in the last race. Once again, they'll be enjoying this battle that they're having. I mean, what's always great with any event, regardless really of where you finish, is if you've had a great race, a great battle, somebody to fight with. And these two drivers, 2 races in a row, are exchanging a little bit of paintwork, a little bit of bumper rubbing, all good driving, and very exciting for both of them as well.
Sadly, Bram Hinchfield is 10 laps down from the leader now in the pit lane. I'm not entirely sure what happened to him. Unfortunately, it does look like he won't be continuing this racing unless he had some serious damage with his car and he is able to repair it, and it might be taking a while. But unfortunately for Bram, this does look like the end of his race. Oh, is that Sean Jacobs backwards in the... And Sean Jacobs is off. He spun off after the chicane. Coming off the back straight, he is in 7th position now. Lost a lot of time to Rob Milliken and Jeffrey Fournier, so that does, I think, definitely relegate him to 3rd position until he can get a quicker... Actually, no, he's already been in the pit stop, hasn't he, Sean Jacobs? My apologies.
Pavel Koshkin is just going into the pits now. Sorry to interrupt you a little bit there, Sam. So Pavel Koshkin in the pits, that battle between Pavel Koshkin and Thomas Pazzi is brought to a slightly early close. He's got Rob Milliken just behind him. Rob, I think, must have the same pit spot, but Pavel Koshkin's already occupying it, so not sure what's going to happen. Robert is going to go back out, do another lap and come back in, but that, if that is the case, then that is very, very unfortunate for Rob Milliken. He was having a great battle. He's trying to see where Rob Milliken's got to. Yeah, looks like he's gone straight back out. So if that's the case, eventually Rob Milliken has had a drive-through just for the unfortunate event that he came to the pits just behind somebody else who already had the same pit box occupied. Pavel Koshkin back out. Thomas Pazzi, we'll have to keep an eye on Thomas, see whether he stays out a bit longer. He'll be on much more worn tyres. I would guess that Pavel was taking at least a set of front 2 tyres, but Thomas has got Jeffrey Fournier very close behind. They're switching back to that battle now, and Jeffrey Fournier's side by side, so Jeffrey Fournier up to 3rd place. Can he keep it? He's running a little bit wide. Tyre smoke, the perfect racing line, but it didn't matter. He made that overtake count. And Jeffrey Fournier now back into 3rd place. That's where he was before he came to the pits, and Thomas running a little bit wide as well. So I think Jeffrey will be very happy with that position after most of the pit stops have happened. He's in 3rd place, that's where he was beforehand. He's 7th, thank you Davey, he's 7th, Paul Joseph, Sergio Manuel just behind Paul in the blue and white, Sergio in the red and a white roofed car. Half a second between the two. Now Rob Milliken in there, he's 3 seconds up the field. I think he's probably going to dive into the pits to take his actual stop. I do hope he's got enough fuel to make it round for another lap. As Paul Joseph closing up a little bit, but that straight not Paul Joseph, rather Sergio Manuel closing up a little bit on Paul's car. The straight not long enough for him to put in an overtake move. Come into that difficult braking zone. A touch of the grass there for Sergio Manuel. I think on the inside, the last thing you want to be doing is getting dirt all over your tyres. A little bit of smoke from Paul Joseph. I think this could be a good run for Sergio Manuel down the start-finish straight. Yes, there's Rob Milliken we can see peeling off into the pit lane again. So real disaster for Rob Milliken. 2 laps in a row he has to pit to actually take on tyres and fuel. Sergio's got the run on Paul Joseph. Can he get the overlap before turn 1? No, he backs out. And Franklin Stegging has come out just in front. He won't have the momentum having come out of the pits. So Paul Joseph and Sergio Manuel may be able to capitalise a little bit if Franklin can't get back up to speed quickly enough. Paul Joseph seemed to be very late on the brakes there, really closing up on the back of Franklin's car. So this has now turned into a 3-way battle, 5th, 6th and 7th place. And Steve Legele, you're looking at the timing splits there, he's only 7/10 behind Sergio, so it could be a 4-way battle before long. Franklin seems to now be up to speed, that gap hovering at around a second. Sergio turning in much earlier than Paul. I can just see there Leon Sharma has left the game. He was in several really good battles early on in the race, so I'm not sure what's happened to Leon. It's a shame to see him classed as a DNF.
I'm coming up on my timing screen, it says fuel, so unless he's run out of fuel unexpectedly somehow,
possibly.
maybe that's possibly what happened.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much at the limit of where a single tank will take you. So yeah, if that's if he hadn't realised what his fuel level was, or maybe just tried to push that extra lap out of the car and wasn't lucky enough to get round to the pits again.
Interestingly, I think one of the strategy calls to note is Thomas Pazzi staying out this long, when I think the closest battle on track during a pit stop was Pazzi and Koshkin. Both of them were nose to tail coming down the pit straight when Koshkin peeled off into the pit lane. So it'll be interesting to see how the long first stint works out for Pazzi, whereas Koshkin's already pitted, got fresh tyres and a full tank of fuel ready to go again. Will he be closing the gap on Pazzi, do you think, or will Pazzi still remain in their position?
I'm not sure. I mean, fresh tyres that might pay out, but Sergio Manuel, that was that battle between Sergio Manuel and Pavel Koshkin. Sergio is now in the pits, he's taking his stop. That was just after Pavel had managed to do an overtake, so both of them losing a little bit of time as they fought their way around the track, and Sergio going into the pits. Anyway, so that leaves Steve Legele out on track in 8th place. Pavel Koshkin about a second up as Pavel runs wide. It's going to be a gift to Steve Legele up into 7th place. Pavel back on track, loses a place, not a massive amount of time, but Steve Legele was only 6/10 behind, so he was able to capitalise on that mistake there by Pavel Koshkin. Ross McGregor up in the lead. Do you know, Sam, has Ross pitted yet or not? I don't think so, because he's still got a 16, well, it was 14 seconds, 16 seconds as it stands at the moment between himself and Jeffrey Fournier.
I think he may have just pitted on that last lap, because I'm looking at the timing sheet now and he done his 2 minutes 45 second lap time, so unless he maybe took a rather large detour, but I think he's been through the pit lane and he's just completed his pit stop.
Indeed, yes. So after pit stops, the lead is pretty much played out. You mentioned Thomas Pazzi there, so you think Thomas is still on original tyres and original fuel level, so he's certainly pushing that fuel level to its absolute limit with just 25 minutes left in the race now. He's got Sean Jacobs 8/10 behind. but Thomas Pazzi is yet to pit. I think he's going to have to in the next lap or two. There's, well, by my calculations, there's absolutely no way you could make it on a single tank. You're going to be about, well, about 7 or 8 laps short, basically. I don't think there's anybody who's able to drive so carefully that they can save 7 or 8 laps of fuel. And as we see, yes, Thomas Pazzi is now into the pits. He was fighting with Pavel Koshkin before the pit stops started. Have to see where he comes back out. And Thomas Pazzi didn't manage to position himself very well. He had to put the car into reverse and get himself lined up properly, so that stop not going well for him. Keeping an eye on Pavel Koshkin, so going to see where Thomas Pazzi comes back out of the pits. Pavel Koshkin on that back straight.
I definitely think that little off-track excursion on the previous lap, which Pavel Koshkin had at the hairpin, cost his chances of closing up or even potentially getting past Thomas Pazzi. So it did look like the long stint did work for Thomas, but it was mostly aided by Koshkin's mistake coming into the hairpin.
I noticed our cameraman Davey picked up on Alex Mertz and Rob Milliken having a battle about 30 seconds to a minute ago. So just switching back to that, Rob Milliken closing up on the back of Alex's car. Alex taking quite a defensive line, forcing Rob Milliken to the outside. This is going to pay for Alex's speed and momentum through that corner, but it means he keeps hold of the position for now. But they're going to be braking heavily into the next right-hander. Now Alex has done a good job of defending there. Keeps hold of 12th place. Rob Milliken pushing hard. A lot of smoke coming off Rob Milliken's front tyres as he tries to get the power down on that tarmac. I think it was Rob Milliken who we were watching at several points earlier in the race who we felt was maybe struggling slightly with front end grip. Certainly smoking your tyres like that won't help maintain those tyres. I can say, was that 7th place? Yes, was it Steve Legali you were mentioning? Davey, is that who you said then?
Steve Legali, Paul Joseph, Thomas Pazzi and Pavel Koshkin, the 5th place, 6th place, 7th place and 8th place drivers going at it, although in separate battles. It does look like Koshkin is closed up to the back of Thomas Pazzi now, and Steve Legali is putting pressure on Paul Joseph.
Yeah, I think probably the battle was likely to reduce, give the most action to that one between Thomas and Pavel. Pavel definitely had a gap to close, and he's done so within 2 laps, I think is all it was, since Thomas came out of the pits. With a good, I think it was about 2 or 3 seconds as we see them go side by side down that start finish straight. Pavel's got the inside line, Thomas gives the position, he'll be hoping to turn in, carry his momentum through and come back on the inside, but it's not going to work this time. Pavel managed to take a really nice line through, including the overtake, so Pavel up into 7th place, Thomas relegated back to 8th. So Steve Legali and Paul Joseph, that's 5th and 6th place rather. Steve Legali really pressuring Paul there, having a look on the inside. Can do it under braking, no, can't quite. Coming out of that corner, Steve looks like he's got better exit speed. Side by side into the braking zone. Paul Joseph's certainly going to be fully aware of the presence of Steve Legali there. I think he's made himself appear in Paul Joseph's mirrors on pretty much every corner. Steve's getting a much tighter line, hit the apex really well. This is going to give him the a really nice exit speed. Moving to the outside as Paul defends. Can he make it all the way around on the outside? It's a tricky one. You're on the marbles when you're on the braking zone. Get it wrong, you're going to be taking a trip across the dirt. Yeah, as you can see, Paul Joseph is able to keep hold of that place by defending the line through. But at the moment, it does look like Steve Legali's got the quicker time. He's trying a way past Paul Joseph. And that battle just behind Pavel Koshkin, we can see it appearing several times in the camera shots there. Pavel Koshkin and Tamas Pazzi, they're fighting it out. They're within a second of the battle between Paul Joseph and Steve Legali. This could be a four-way battle very rapidly. We can see how quickly that gap closed up between Steve Legali in 6th and Pavel Koshkin in 7th. As they go down the start-finish straight, 4 cars almost in a line. Steve Legali once again looking on the inside, tucks back onto the racing line. And Koshkin seems to be carrying a lot of speed to that corner. Once again, Steve has a look on the inside, but he's going to have to start defending now. If he's not careful, Pavel Koshkin's going to make his way through. What are your guesses, Sam? How do you think it's going to work out? A four-way battle for 5th place effectively here. Koshkin and Pazzi, I think, are the quicker drivers, but they've got to find their way through 2 drivers battling it hard here at the moment, Paul Joseph and Steve Legali. What's your bet, Sam? Who do you think is going to come out on top of this four-way battle?
Oh, I definitely have no idea, but it's exciting nonetheless. I'm on the edge of my seat here as Steve Legali goes up the inside of Paul Joseph, trying to make a pass in the hairpin. It looks like Pavel Koshkin's trying to follow him through. They're side by side. It looks like going into left-hand kink. As we've seen before, you don't want to be on the outside because you will go wide. Pavel Koshkin retreats and is behind Paul Joseph now going into the corner. It does look like Tamas Pazzi's just maybe staying back a bit. You don't want to be involved in a crash. It looks like Koshkin's moving up the inside of Paul Joseph, and it does look like he has got the position coming onto the back straight. He's definitely got corner priority by being on the inside, and he is through. And now will Tamas Pazzi definitely pick up the pace now to try and get past Paul Joseph to continue his battle with Pavel Koshkin and move up the field?
Yes, I would think that Pavel Koshkin will be hoping that Paul Joseph manages to keep Tamas at bay for at least a lap or 2, so he can extend a little bit of a gap, get a little bit of breathing space. Steve Legali managing to generate a little bit of gap as Tamas Pazzi runs wide there, so losing a little bit of time to Paul Joseph, and obviously Pavel and Steve slightly further ahead. Seems to still be turning a really good lap time. Pavel is closing that gap, but I think Pavel's going to have to fight hard for that position. I'm pretty sure Steve's not going to be giving it away lightly. Steve Legali, his nickname on the club races which he regularly takes part in is the gentleman racer. He rarely gets a track violation or is involved in any form of contact with another driver. A very respectful driver, Steve Legali, but a very quick one indeed. 5th place at the moment, and he's certainly keeping Pavel at bay. That gap's still hovering around half a second, but you really need to have it down to the tenths or 2 tenths to try and overtake move. Although he runs wide there, this could be an opportunity for Pavel. I think the outside, I see he's going to have the inside line, but he's going to be feeling that pressure now. And the battle in the background, Pavel Koshkin and Paul Joseph are nose to tail, because once again, I think I got the names on the side.
Tamas Pazzi.
Yes, apologies.
He goes up the inside into the hairpin without breaking himself. It looks like Paul Joseph's going to try and get the cut back on him there, side by side, coming out the exit of the corner. A little bit of bump in there, but it looks like Tamas Pazzi has got the move completed and will now set out in catch of Pavel Koshkin.
Thank you, Sam. Apologies, viewers, getting all my names mixed up there. But Steve Legali still holding on to 5th place, doing a very good job keeping those other 3 drivers behind him. Trying to look through the field at any other close races. I think we need to keep to this battle, but just looking at the timings, Alex Schmertz and Rob Milliken back in 12th and 13th, they're still having a good battle, a close fight. Steve Legali to keep Pavel behind. A little bit of a lock up there. Trying to see where each driver has the better sector of the track. I think Pavel gets a very good run through the last few corners, which is what we're approaching now. Half a second the gap at the moment. As they come onto the back straight, or heavy over the curbs this time for Pavel. So once again, Steve Legali is safe for another lap.
a bit of information on Leon Sharman, who retired earlier this race on lap 21. And we have got word that it was something to do with his fuel meter not displaying the right fuel usage properly. So that is very hard luck for Leon, unfortunately, and he was in some great battles and some great overtaking manoeuvres earlier in the race, so it is sad to see him lost from this race.
Steve Legale and Pavel Koshkin, they are pretty much nose to tail now. Oh, pretty much as I said that, the gap actually was opened up. It was 2/10, it's now back up to half a second, so Pavel making a little mistake, losing a few tenths for Steve Legale. Pavel managed to get his car tucked in closer to the apex, much nicer on that corner. And looking at the track map, Ross, where Greg is fighting his way through a few back markers, as Pavel Koshkin really now is close up to Steve Legale. If he can keep that position when until they get to a straight, and which is what they're coming on to now, the back straight. You really see Pavel's pushing very hard. He's trying everything he can to close that gap, get into that slipstream, try and force a mistake out of Steve Legale. But so far, Steve Legale has been very consistent. Which is what makes it so hard for the following driver to actually get a move. See Steve Legale not even having to defend there, Pavel having a look on the inside, but Steve knows there's no way he's going to be able to overtake from that distance. There are little wiggles from Steve. Sorry, Sam, what were you going to say?
Oh, no, sorry, it's alright, I was just about to comment on that battle, but you had it under control. Sorry about interrupting there.
No worries. There's a little wiggle there from Steve Legale. Allow Pavel rather Koshkin goes up a little bit as they enter into the braking zone for the start finish straight. Now Pavel's very, very close behind. He obviously got the braking just right. The back marker, Ingemar Peterson, pulled over very courteously, allowing these two drivers through. A little flash of the lights to say go ahead guys. As Pavel Koshkin moves to the inside, Steve Legale on the outside, a definite overlap there. Front of wheels of Pavel level with the rear wheels of Steve Legale as they turn into the first corner. Steve's not giving up, they're resting on each other. Pavel resting on the rear of Steve Legale's car. Steve's got the run into the next corner, he's carried the momentum through better. So great driving, side by side racing for those two drivers, very respectful. Steve Legale holds on to 5th place.
It's definitely something I didn't expect to see, two cars going side by side through the first corner. Great racing between the two of them, and they kept it very clean.
Yeah, keeping them both on track. Normally you expect on the outside to end up having to run wide, but Pavel giving Steve enough space, giving him that space so that he can keep on track. Very much, Davey. Yes, P6. Thomas. Is it Thomas Pazzi and Thomas Hiddens? Is that who?
Thomas Hint, the dark horse of this battle, actually he's come from outside the top 10 as of recently, and he is now trying to get past Thomas Pazzi and make his way up into 7th position. He's on the inside coming onto the back straight. He will have track priority. Will Pazzi give him the room? Yes, he will, and Thomas Hint is through into 7th position. So Thomas Hint's making up quite a few places during the midsection of this race, coming towards the end. So I think he's drove a fantastic race to come from where he's come from. And Pavel Koshkin and Steve Legale is still very close together on circuit now. Pavel Koshkin looking at possibly going up the inside of him on the first corner yet again, but will Steve Legale stop that this time, or will he go side by side again? This is I can hardly get my words out. This is such an interesting battle between the two of these drivers, and it's so clean as well without any contact.
Yeah, Steve Legale living up to his nickname of the gentleman racer, as he keeps his car very tidy onto the start-finish straight. That distinctive and very nice design. It's actually mentioned in the Twitch chat. Mike Vastaken mentioned the very nice Castrol design. It is indeed a very good skin there that Steve Legale has on its car. Pavel having a little look on the inside. Steve's not going to fall for that one. He's too far. Pavel's too far back. Just making sure Steve knows rather that Pavel's still I mean, with that bright well, pink, I guess, purple pink, but mostly pink, I think, car bonnet rather of Pavel is certainly going to pop out in the rear mirror when he lunges to either side down the straights. So with just 10 minutes left on the clock and only 3/10 separating Steve Legale and Pavel Koshkin, it'll be interesting to see how they manage to keep this fight going for the remaining 10 minutes. As Pavel Koshkin goes on the inside, there's a little bit of contact. It's a late move there from Pavel. The gap had closed, but it was certainly a little bit of a lunge, but he makes it through. Both cars stay on track. We'll have to see if Steve Legale can pick up the pace and keep with Pavel, as Pavel has a little bit of a wiggle through that corner and keeps it under control. Keep an eye on that split time and see whether Pavel is actually quicker, could make that gap increase and try and get some clean air between himself and Steve Legale, or whether Steve can hang on to the rear wing and maybe put an overtake in himself if he gets that opportunity. The leader, Ross McGregor, then we're coming into the closing stages of this race. He's really demonstrated exactly what he did in the first race, which is incredibly consistent, really good lap times, and knocking those lap times out every single time he goes around the circuit. He has just trying to move up my display is just showing the wrong split there. He's got an 18-second gap over Jeffrey Fournier at the moment. And Sean Jacobs, his teammate, is holding on to third place quite comfortably at the moment. Steve Legale certainly is holding on to the car of Pavel Koshkin. He's still there in the background, 3 to 4 tenths holding a gap between them, as Pavel has a big twitch through that corner. I think if Steve can carry the momentum, he'll be able to close that gap. Battles further down the field, trying to look at the split times. Rob Milliken, Alex Smertz, they were battling away for some time in 12th and 13th place. About a second separating the two, but that's one of the closer battles going on at the moment.
I think the closest battle is Pavel Koshkin and Steve Legale's just about 3/10 in it, I think, and Thomas Hintz is also closing up on that battle after. I think he's gained 3 seconds away from Thomas Paggi, so he is now only 4 seconds behind this battle from being 7 seconds. And could we see him possibly in these last 10 minutes close up to these cars and cause a bit of a ruckus in between them? It does look like Pavel Koshkin at the moment is ahead of Steve Legale, well, obviously, but will he keep ahead? It does look like he's a bit faster and will keep the position, but you never know. This is the Mini Cooper Championship. Yeah,
if those tyres wear and the fuel load goes down, the car might start to become a little bit more twitchy, especially for those drivers that change just the front tyres, running on what will be by the end of the race some pretty worn rear tyres. But yeah, Thomas Hintz really putting in a great sort of last third of this race, picking off drivers as he goes. He's up into 7th place. 2.8 seconds separates him and Steve Legale at the moment. Steve and Pavel fighting, or the battle that they fought, costing him a little bit of time and would have allowed Thomas Hintz to close that gap. Now that Pavel's got past and Steve is a little bit more on his own, it'll be interesting to see if Thomas Hintz can close that gap. I mean, the gap's now down to about 2.5 seconds there for a moment as Thomas came through that last sequence. It's gone back down to about 2.8. So yeah, Steve is going to have to keep his car together, his mind in the race mode in these closing 6 minutes of the race. He wants to hold on to 6th place. A big slide for Thomas Hintz. I'm not sure if the camera picked up on that or not. A very big slide for Thomas. Keeps control as a back marker pulls over very nicely, lets him through. A little flash of the lights of Thomas to say thank you for that clean overtake of the back marker.
I believe that is Bram Hedfeld. Was it the light blue Mini Cooper?
It was certainly a light blue one. So that would be either Bram or his teammate John Suter. But I think it was Bram, yeah, correct, Sam.
Yeah, the front of that Mini Cooper looking a bit sorry for itself with a dented front bumper.
Well, as you say, Pavel does appear to be slightly quicker, but despite being ahead of Steve Legale for a lap or two, The gap is only just about opening up to a second now, so this would explain why it took Pavel a number of laps to find a way past Steve Legale. Steve was able to do consistent times. They were slightly slower maybe than what Pavel was able to do, but with such a small time difference between the two drivers, finding a way past is very difficult indeed.
Just looking at the last lap times for these drivers, and Thomas Hintz just done a 2 minutes 15 and 0.6, and Steve Legale's done a 2 minutes 16.2, so 6/10 the difference between those two drivers. It does look like that. It does look like Thomas Hintz will run out of time before he catches this pair, unfortunately. But we're getting to the end of the race now with only, say, about 2 or 3 laps left. Who would you say has been your driver of the day?
Well, looking at various battles that we've had, Pavel Koshkin and Thomas Pazzi featuring in many of them. Rob Milliken as well involved in several of those, but I think Pavel Koshkin would certainly be high up on that list. Involved in lots of action, particularly that battle between himself and Steve Legale. Very clean driving for both of them. Neither of them knocked off the track really at any point due to any overtake attempts, and that's what's nice to see. Even though these guys have been driving for approaching 80 minutes, they'll be feeling this. This is hard work, even with the low-end wheels that don't give steering wheels that don't give a huge amount of force feedback. By the time you get to the end of one of these races, you're really feeling it in your joints and your wrists. So to be battling so hard towards the tail end of this race shows a lot of commitment, a lot of respect for the other drivers on the track as well.
Oh, and it looks like the battle between Alex Schmerz and Rob Milliken is getting really feisty now. Rob Milliken very close behind the bumper of Alex Schmerz, coming into, I believe that's the final corner. Yes, it is. Rob Milliken, unfortunately, was sort of outdone by the pit layout of this track, because I remember him coming into the pit lane just as Pavel Koshkin did, and unfortunately those two were sharing a pit box, unbeknownst to Rob Milliken, who came in after Pavel, and he was forced to go through the pit lane and come back in again a lap later. So it's a shame for Rob Milliken, because he would have been probably inside the top 10 had he not have had that awful luck.
Yeah, that's probably will have cost him. Effectively, it was a drive-through a penalty essentially that he was unfortunate enough to get by the luck of the pit box draw. Really, yeah, he will have lost. I would guess maybe 15 to 20 seconds just by the speed limit that's on the pit lane, and that would have put him certainly into the top 10 at this stage of the race. So 2 minutes and 20 seconds are left on the clock. Closest race I think we've still got is between Steve Legale and Pavel. Mind you, that's opened up to 1.4 seconds, so it probably is Rob Milliken and Alex Schmerz, around a second gap between the two. Thomas Hintz, I think he managed to close up the gap to the back of Steve Legale a little bit, but there's only a 1 minute 50 left on the clock. It would he certainly close that gap to Steve Legale, but it's going to require quite a significant mistake from Steve for Thomas to pick up 6th place. But having said that, you asked me a few minutes ago, Sam, you asked me who I thought was the driver of the race. Full respect, I guess, has to be given to Ross McGregor once more. I mean, 2 races in a row, he's hardly featured on the stream, to be honest, but that's because his consistency and his lap times have kept him out of all trouble. He's been lapping those back markers, he's done it cleanly, and the back markers have also been respectful enough to let him through without too much delay. So, yeah, I guess Ross McGregor, he hasn't featured very much. What do you think? Would he be your driver of the race?
In terms of consistency, definitely. I'm looking at his timing sheets now, and 90% of his laps are on the 2 minute 14s. So he's been lapping extremely consistent, as he did at Alton Park. He made no mistakes, and I do believe he's coming up to his final lap of the race at the moment, with I think there's only about 50 seconds left, isn't there?
Yep, 50 or under 50 seconds now on the clock.
I'd either give it to Ross McGregor or Thomas Hintz for an incredible fight back through the field from where he started, and I think definitely after the halfway point he started to really pick up places and make his way through into the top 10, passing Thomas Pazzi, Paul Joseph, Mike McGee and Sergio Mengual. And he is only 1.7 seconds behind Steve Legale, but it does look like there won't be enough time, unfortunately, to feature a battle between the two of them.
Yes, indeed. The clock's in the closing seconds now, just 7 seconds left on there. I would think this will be the last lap. It just depends. I'm not quite sure how automotive decides whether you get another lap or not. There is a chance. I think it depends whether you get to the second sector or not. So there is a chance that it might say that Ross McGregor's got to go round once more. But I think for the drivers behind him, now that their clocks reach 0, they'll probably get that finish called pretty much instantly when they cross that line. So Ross McGregor comfortably in the lead, 17-second gap. Looking down through the timings there, I don't know if there's going to be any last lap action between any of the drivers. Possibly 10th and 11th place Mike McGear maybe and Sergio Menguel. Ross McGregor come from the lead. Will come, I think we'll switch back to that battle between Sergio and Mike once we know whether Ross McGregor gets across that line and wins this race.
I think that battle is just in front of Ross McGregor actually, so, and also the battle between Alex Schmidt and Rob Milliken is just in front of Ross McGregor, so that battle will wage on for another lap, but Ross McGregor comes around the final corner to, I think it is the last lap, isn't it? So Ross McGregor wins round 2 of the Race Department Mini Challenge. He's took a clean sweep from the first 2 rounds, a great show in Alton Park and a great show here, a flash of the light as he crosses the line. And Ross McGregor further puts himself in command of the championship tables, with his closest rival in the championship, Sean Jacobs, finishing 3rd after a mistake going wide at the hairpin earlier after his pit stop.
Yeah, that battle between Mike McGear and Sergio Menguel has been going on a little while. Sergio is now 7th behind as a back marker pulls over to let the pass. This is the closing lap, and I'm guessing this is much the closest battle we've got on the race. Steve Legale and Thomas Hinds are about a second apart, so I don't think that position's going to change. 8/10 separate Mike McGear, 10th place. We're very happy to have made that top 10. As I said earlier, it's always nice to get that top 10, as Jeffrey Fournier has now finished, so has John Jacob, securing 3rd place. Yeah, I don't think Sergio is going to be able to pick up a top 10 finish. Franklin Stegging now also finished in 4th. Pavel Koshkin will be the next to cross the line. He has Steve Legale close behind. Thomas Hinds really did manage to close up towards the end of the race, so Thomas Hinds would have been really hoping to get one more race, but he is home in 7th. One more lap rather. Steve Legale will be happy to have not had to go round, because Thomas Hinds might have well have been putting an overkill on him had that been the case. Thomas Pazzi now also finishing 8th, Joseph in 9th. Mike McGear will be crossing the line shortly to bring home the top 10 finish.
Definitely on that last lap for Thomas Hinds, he closed up so much as I was watching him through the final corner. He must have had so much confidence in the brakes of his car to close up that close to Steve. Coming into the final corner, he couldn't really get the drive out because of how deep he went into the corner, but a great showing for Thomas Hinds today at Snetterton. And the battle between Rob Milliken and Alex Schmidt is going side by side across the line. It looks like Alex Schmidt might he does get the position, and he finishes in 12th place. But what a battle across the line. It does look like Rob Milliken's veered off into the guardrail there, and possibly some noises as well as he's crashing into it. But yeah, that is everyone in the race over.
Maybe. Yes, indeed, quite an exciting event. Lots of close battles, several groups and pairs of drivers getting involved in several battles. I think everybody has now crossed the finish line. So just to give a run through of those finals, starting Ross McGregor in qualified in pole position, incredibly consistent, and brings home a win in 1st place for RJM Autosport. Jeffrey Fournier in 2nd place. Sean Jacobs 3rd. Franklin Stegging brings home 4th place. Pavel Koshkin in 5th. Steve Legale does a great job in 6th place as well. Fortunately, the server's switched over for me, Sam. I'm not sure if you're able to see the standings any further and give a further countdown.
No, unfortunately, it has gone off. We're terribly sorry for those technical difficulties in the server viewers out there.
So yeah, interesting race indeed. Lots of action, as is often the case with these minis. Plenty of paint exchange between several of the drivers as well. I'm not sure, Sam, do we get any of the drivers coming in for a quick chat, do you think, at this point in the race? Or what's going to happen? Get a little interview, maybe?
Definitely like to hear from
there's
some
a
of the
few
drivers.
guys. Jeffrey Fournier has just popped in to say hello. Jeffrey, good race for you. Sean Jacobs is here now as well. Jeffrey, how do you think that played out for you? It's a good event. Can you hear me, Jeffrey? Sure, if Jeffrey can hear me. Sean Jacobs, you've joined us here in chat as well. Sean, how did that race play out for you? It's been certainly an exciting race for us to watch. How did the race go for you, sir?
This is not a fun track, man. This was yeah.
Not a fun track.
I'm glad that it's in the rearview mirror. That's for sure.
80 minutes of torture.
Yeah, basically qualifying was great. I was really happy to get second, but just never really felt comfortable with those two corners. The one that I spun out on. You probably caught that. So yeah, I'm very glad that this is over and we're going to go on to brands. Much better.
Yeah, there's a pair of corners where you have to, certainly from driving it myself, I found them particularly difficult, where you have to, you brake on the turn for a much tighter corner coming up, and I always struggled with those. Yeah, most drivers doing okay, but you can see the brakes and the throttle trying to keep the control of the car, keep it turned in without losing the back end at the same time.
Yeah, that's it. Spot on. Yeah, well done to Ross and Jeff. They were both brilliant. I had nothing for either of them, so great debut from Jeffrey. And Ross is just untouchable at the moment, but I'll see if I have something for him for brands.
Yeah, Ross's consistency, 2 races in a row, incredibly consistent, very good times. We were just looking at his lap times, rarely out of the 2:14s for Ross. So once again, a really good victory for him. I can't see him in the chat at the moment. Jeffrey, I don't know if you can hear me now. We tried to pick up on you a little bit earlier. Are you there, Jeffrey?
Yeah, I can. Hello.
Hey, welcome, Jeffrey. Thanks for coming to join us. Yeah, how did that race go for you? Certainly seemed to be a good event from our point of view. Did you find yourself able to get some clean space, put in some consistent lap times?
Well, I did a great start, was at the back of Ross McGregor with my teammate since this round, but I had a screen freeze after first few laps. Then I had a nice fight with Sean, who was very quick, and then I gained the second place at the pit by doing a good pit stop. So yeah, I'm very happy with that P2.
Did you take just 2 tires, 4 tires, or no tires at all? So I believe it was about 7 seconds a tire, I think it was. So you could certainly save by just changing the front, which would have been taking most of the wear, Jeffrey. So did you take a full set or just the front 2 when you did your pit stop?
I changed only 2 tires. I had some damage on the car, but that was okay to keep doing some consistent lap in 2:14. So I only changed 2 tires.
Indeed, yes. Thomas Hiddens, you've come to join us. A great closing stages of the race for you, Thomas. Really closing up onto the back of Steve Legale's car. Another lap, Thomas, and I think you might have been looking at an overtake opportunity.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Thanks for the intro there. Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one for me, that race. Sorry. Oop, language terrible. Yeah, I tried to do some changes to the setup with the brake pressure. I tried to add a bit more just to help with that final corner. And I wasn't quite used to it when the race started. So that's why in the early stages I had a few little moments, had a few offs, and just kind of lost a lot of time. So I probably could have been top 5 pretty decent, well, probably comfortably if I'd not had those early issues. But anyway, such as racing. So by the stop, sort of just before the stop, I think I'd started to finally sort of get used to the brakes and whereabouts I needed to press them to get the optimal amount of pressure without locking them. And I was able to get some good pace at the end of that. Did the stop, got out on the fresh front tyres, And yeah, just seemed to have really good pace. Was just closing in pretty quickly on the guys ahead, and yeah, got through into 7th. And yeah, you're right. One more lap. Ah, so close. It's nearly. He's gonna just go for the last corner. I thought, nah, don't do anything stupid. And he just got good enough run, Steve, to get it. But great drive to all the guys at the top end. Was really, really good pace. So yeah, good fun. But happy to get a 7th from that because the start of the race was certainly not optimal for me.
Yes, indeed. Various exciting battles going on. Leon, can see you in the chat. Can you hear me, Leon?
Hi, yeah.
Hey, Leon. Give us a rundown of your start and how, any particular exciting events for yourself. We picked you up at several points in the race. I can't quite recall which battles they were, but yeah, we picked you up at several points on the stream with battles that you were involved in. So how did the race pan out for you?
Well, I hadn't practiced any starts, so it was quite terrible. Started in P10 and lost 7 places in total during the opening 5 laps, I think. So that was a downer. But I love a good race and overtaking people, so that was fun. I had some great battles, but halfway during my race, I hit a cliff or some personal cliff, I don't know, and it just all went bad, and I took my pit stop, and from then it just kind of deteriorated. It was a lot of fun though. But I retired due to a fuel issue, which I find quite strange, because I'd done my testing and it showed me that I was using 1 liter of fuel a lap. So I calculated there would be around 36 laps. So to be sure, I put in 44 liters. That would last me 44 laps. But somewhere during the race, I got the call that I was low on fuel and I didn't understand anything. So I just kept on driving. Yeah, I'd done my calculations and it seemed to be right. So I just continued, but eventually the engine stopped and that was it. So I'm going to ask some people how much fuel they really used per lap, because I think my fuel meters were acting up.
Sam, I could probably answer it. Sam, you probably got some info on the fuel usage. I think Sam will fill you in, but I think it might have been to do with your testing if you did it on a single player server, because single player race on your computer, because the server I believe was set up for 2 times fuel. Is that correct, Sam?
Yes, the server was set for 2 times fuel usage, so that may have been where it was a bit dodgy with the fuel usage. So unfortunately, unless something clearly obviously went badly wrong with the fuel settings, it was a shame to see you drop out the race after making such a strong comeback after your start.
Yeah, after all, it makes a lot of sense because I put in 44 liters, it said 18 laps, and I put in for 44, so yeah, that's my mistake then. It was a fun race though, I really enjoyed it. I'll be back for the next round.
Well, that's great to hear, Leon. Glad it hasn't put you off continuing in the league. I think we've picked up everybody that's here in the chat. Anybody I've missed, Sam, that you can see?
No, I think that's everyone. But just a final word on the next round of the Race Department Mini Challenge. It is at Brands Hatch, and it will be taking part 2 weeks from now in January, which will be just coming into the new year. So I'd just like to thank everyone for watching, everyone for taking part, and I've been Sam Carmichael, and Jim, if you want to wrap it up.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you, Sam. Yeah, it's been a great event. Really exciting. Thank you guys for joining us after the race. Come and give us your feedback on the event. Davey van der Ven, I hope I've got your surname right, Davey, been our cameraman and our tipster on any exciting bits of track action. But thank you very much, viewers, for joining us in tonight's event. We'll hope you'll join us in a couple of weeks for the next round. And it's been a very enjoyable, exciting one, and hope to see you again sometime soon. Thank you very much from Race Department, and have a good evening.